I went to my preacher, but my soul couldn't be redeemed, so I loaded up my pistol, but the firing pin was a dud, too much.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Dumpster Dive with your host Amber, J Nasty, and Pepper, where we analyze the worst of the worst in awful horror flicks and allow adult beverages to give us a great sense of humor about it. Alright, so we're back for another episode of The Dumpster Dive.
Sleepaway Camp. Where the hell do I start?
Sleepaway Camp. This wasn't even the first out of the series that I've ever seen. I actually saw Sleepaway Camp 3 and Sleepaway Camp 2 first.
I gotta admit, I was kind of interested when you said that you wanted to see this movie because, it just kind of came out of nowhere because I've actually got a history with this movie I don't think I told you guys about. But this was kind of the first movie that, terrified the piss out of me when I was a kid.
Oh, it's your child's play?
Yeah, but, not exactly. I didn't spend the rest of my life terrified of, transsexuals like they were Chucky movies. But the backstory about it is, first of all, you have to remember I was like 7 or 8 and I was actually at camp Mendocino back when I lived in California. So I go to camp. It was like a weekend camp, and first of all, I don't know who in the hell cleared this movie for children to watch, but we were sitting in the lodge watching this movie, and the twist at the end.
Yeah.
And apparently I just completely went out of my mind. They had to have 3 counselors come over to ensure me that everything was going to be okay. And then to make matters worse, some dickhead that was actually in my lodge tells me, "Oh, Jason, you don't have to worry about that. Sleepaway Camp is 3 miles from here." That's supposed to make me feel better.
They can't get all the way over here somehow.
Exactly. Not that this is just a movie and it's not really happening in real life. It's 3 miles away from here, so you don't have to worry about it.
Right, 3 miles. 3 miles is not that far when you really think about it.
Exactly.
People do 3 miles in the gym.
Yeah, so stupid what that guy said.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was one of my traumas from early in life. So that's why it was kind of crazy that you said that you were kind of into this movie, because the funny thing about it is I didn't even think about this movie until a 5 years ago. Totally forgot it existed, so.
Alright, so the reason we picked this movie is because I was when we first started talking about shitty horror movies, I was Sleepaway Camp 2, Sleepaway Camp 3, and you were Sleepaway Camp 1, and Robin has never seen it.
No, that was traumatizing for me. Especially since y'all knew about the ending and I did not.
You're staring at her the entire time, you ready for it?
Yeah, yeah.
I like how everything just, we were talking shit the entire movie, but then, when Amber and I knew that it was about that time, everything slowed down to a total creep, and we were just watching Robin.
We didn't have to watch the screen, we all knew what was going to happen. We were just so I want to see your reaction.
Yeah, we want to get her reaction on camera.
Right. So what did you think of the movie, Robin?
I thought it was good. In the beginning, the twist at the end definitely, it shocked me. I wasn't expecting that, But I thought it was good, though. It's just I can imagine that being an actual camp where you have, your camp counselors with the shortest shorts ever and your old creepy man running it, and all the pedophiles that, were working there. I could see all that,
To an extent, I don't want to imagine going to camp and there just be pedophiles running around it.
Well,
everybody was okay with that shit.
You know what I mean? You see these,
Yeah, but they were so, you could tell these, if I went to camp and I saw, I was yeah.
Artie looks like he's got a pretty suspect hard drive.
They
That's
were
all I'm saying.
All the pedophiles in this movie were exaggeration of what pedophiles are. You know what I mean? They're these are the most stereotypical
They look
pedophiles.
So child molestery.
Right. It's they didn't have a choice but to.
Exactly. But, you made a good point when you were watching the movie. It's every role in that movie was played perfectly by whoever the hell was playing that role.
The casting was immaculate in this film. I believe that these were kids. Some of the older kids, they look like they were in their solid 30s. But Ricky and Angela, I was I could Angela being the awkward girl, blah blah blah. I could definitely see it happening. I
definitely miss that thing. There was something about movies in the 80s that I've said this before. I think I miss those movies from the 80s that had like 11, 12, 13-year-olds that were like cussing like ICP. I really miss those movies.
They cuss, but yet they don't really know how to use the cuss words. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, I miss that. Like, I think I learned how to swear from watching movies like Sleepaway Camp.
So, with that being said, like, what are you guys' like favorite parts of the movie?
Oh, Jesus. There's so... Okay, and you're going to hear me talk about this a lot, and I know I've said it on other podcasts, but the practical effects were... I'm a big practical effects guy because I came up in the 80s before CGI was real huge. The practical effects of the death scenes were like, that's my shit. When the pot of boiling corn, which I don't know how in the hell...
Not even how, but
the
why?
specifics of having a 6-foot tall but a foot across pot to boil all that. I don't know.
And then filling it all the way up. Like,
all the way. There's no way.
There's no safety precautions. That was the 80s though. No safety precautions in anything.
Like it's.
Okay,
it's
but
so
when did he get a pot
that
big? I've never seen a pot that big.
It's so clear that pot was created almost for that scene in this movie. But
yes.
like, when it tipped over, I'm digressing here. When it tipped over and the boiling water was on his face, like they actually went far enough to be like, okay, we're actually going to make his face look like a blister pops up. Like, it's not there. I don't know how they did it. Like, it was this burned cheek, but then, like, they filled it up somehow, and it's like, pus blister, pus bucket. Like, I don't know how they did it, but it was just amazing.
But they did it in a continuous shot, so it was like, it wasn't like they did a cut and now you got to, like, blister. It was like as you're watching this guy scream in agony, the blister is starting to boil.
Exactly. You have to be such a MacGyver with, like, special effects and makeup to be able to pull a stunt like that. And like the lifelike dummies they made when what was it, Kenny, the guy that he got drowned in the canoe, and like that was a life model of that kid. And they just threw a snake in his mouth. I'm like, oh my god! Again, I'm 7-8 years old. I'm pissing my pants right now. I can't handle it. The practical effects are the best thing about it. Not to mention the plot, which I'm sure we'll get into later.
Thinking of like your story and all this stuff, I'm low-key thinking like, is this why mom only sent us to day camp? Because you came home crying. She was like, never again.
I never thought about that, but it didn't affect me. Like, she had no idea. Like, it wasn't like a long-term trauma, but I sure as hell knew I had seen something interesting that day.
She knew I wasn't fucking with no baby dolls at the Child's Play. That's why I said that, like...
Exactly.
So, for me, I think my favorite parts of the movie, the practical effects were really, really great. But also, like, just the accents. Honestly, I feel like the accents sold it. These, like, New Jersey accents. Everything they said was, like, super, like...
You could tell that was a regional movie. You could tell where that movie was made.
These are people that are actually from the state. They didn't get called in from nowhere else. They, like, found these people on the street and said, hey, you want to come read some lines?
Long Island, New York.
Meet me at the waterfront after the social.
After the social.
There was a lot of, I feel like, to piggyback off what you said too, like they made the characters just really realistic.
You had the bitchy Judy, the slutty girl who, like, everybody at camp wants her except for the one dude that Angela wants, or that wants Angela. And she's so the looks on that girl's face were just like, oh god, you wanted to choke her out.
I think you said, like, when we were watching the movie, like, if you had any, like, I hate to use the word cunt, but if you had any depiction of what a cunt would be, Judy played that role. What about you, Robin? What was your favorite parts in the movies?
It was a lot, but one of my favorite parts was the when Angela's cousin, what's his name? Ricky. When the guys on the roof were throwing the water balloons at Angela, that was a little mean, But when Ricky comes out of nowhere and the curse words that were flying out of his mouth,
that's what I'm talking
it
about.
made like rolling them off.
Yes, like anything, and it's just like going off in left field of cussing them out, and it's just like, wow, I really not okay. But I guess that works, It's like basically a kid learning how to cuss, It's just like
mixing words.
Yeah.
Everything he heard his Uncle Frank say at the football game, like came out of his mouth.
So that was one of my favorite ones, just listening to, it was just funny watching the whole, him just cussing out those boys and stuff like that, it was just kind of funny. So
boys, that's funny. Three of them were teenagers.
I know.
One
Three of
was
them
old
were
enough
like
to rent a car.
40
Yeah.
years old. Like,
Yeah.
at least like half of the characters in that movie that were like 18 had chest hairs of the
Oh my God! Can we please talk about that?
Yes.
I love. This is my favorite character, but we got to talk about this guy, Gino, with the fucking
Homeboy had a ferret on
happy
his
trail
chest.
up to his throat. Who? And his cut off T-shirts. How gross is that? How gross is that? Was this movie made in the 70s or like the early 80s? Like, I thought there was a clear cutoff between that kind of behavior.
I think another one of my like favorite things, piggybacking off of that, is like how all the girls were like super dressed, but all the dudes were just like showing their midriffs and
Oh.
Yeah.
God.
how
Like you
skinny
can tell it's from the
can you
80s, you know? It's just
High
like, really?
socks on Billy? Like, what the
get?
hell?
Counselor Ronnie.
Oh,
every scene
Ronnie.
you saw
Good
him,
old Ronnie.
every time you see Ronnie, his shorts get shorter and shorter,
Yes.
tighter and tighter, and it's like straight David Bowie in the Labyrinth, just straight dick.
Oh, and his
Everywhere.
shirts just got smaller and smaller. It's like, and I didn't, you know, it's funny, the amount of times I've seen this movie, but I didn't even notice this until watching it last night. Like, I mentioned it. That one scene where old Mel was like smacking Ricky around. I didn't even notice Ricky was in, or Ronnie was in the back of that scene straight up pumping iron. I didn't even see that.
You know what's funny? I don't even think he was supposed to be a part of that scene. He was just working out. He was just working out.
I'm just working out here, guys. I'm not even trying to be here.
Right.
I'm just working.
That would explain why he wasn't even watching them, like when they like pushed Angela into the lake.
Yeah, wasn't he supposed to be in charge? And somehow he never saw any. Like, it's not like any of the incidents happened like split second. Like, there was always like a 3-minute like walk up to like I feel like there was like a slow motion scene to like old, you know, super shoulders Meg carrying Angela over.
Bro,
the
why
freaking
was she
dock
so
to throw her
fucking
in.
strong? And the way she walked up to Angela, she was just straight shoulders.
I mean, it was Jesus. It was like, you know, Bridget Wilson and Rocky IV. Like, the shoulders on that girl.
I'm gonna take you for a walk. Like, what the hell are you so strong for, Meg?
Like-
You're supposed to be 16.
I know, like, no 16-year-old girl has shoulders like Lou Ferrigno, but she did.
So, with that being said, I want to go into my least favorite parts of the movie.
Okay.
Just like the adults in the movie piss me off because they have no reason to be like so mad about Angela. Like, why not discipline Meg, strong ass, throwing her in the water? Why not discipline the kids kicking sand on a wet woman? Like,
Okay, let's break this down. We got to go all the way back. At the beginning of the movie, Ronnie, who was the head counselor, you know, with the mullet and the muscles, apparently talked to all of the other counselors and told them about Angela.
but what
What did they tell
them?
him?
They act like they don't know shit about her.
Like,
Exactly.
you're
Or
upset
maybe-
because she won't go swimming? Well, of course she won't go swimming.
Right.
Like, maybe he didn't tell them the reason why she's a sensitive kid, you know, because otherwise, you know, if Meg knew all that and she decided to still be that much of a skank to her, then she should have died in the first 20 minutes of the movie. Like,
Right.
the good thing about this movie is, like, karma exists in it, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
made it home that summer who didn't deserve to make it home.
You know, I don't even fault Angela. I was like, yeah, kill them all. They
Yeah.
suck.
Exactly.
As they say in the Mummy, you'll get your coming uppings.
Exactly. If you knew this kid had issues and you still chose to be an asshole, like, you're not going home.
I think a really great thing about this movie is like all the deaths were so deserved and they were all creative. Like with the pedophile in the front, it's like, yeah, you know, you're out here causing all this pain to all these kids by molesting them. You deserve to go like the hardest way, getting burned. Like, and then with fucking Judy, oh my god.
Oh my God.
In the curling iron.
I'm just gonna let you ladies handle that because
I don't even want to talk about it because it made me clench. I was like,
Oh.
yeah, I'm sorry for ever being mean. to
it made
anybody.
me clench, and I don't even have that hardware.
This movie should have been a bullying PSA.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, never mind. You
Yeah.
got me. Like,
Yeah.
I'll never again talk shit about anybody. 'Cause
Oh my, you were absolutely right because the end of the movie. Well, we'll say the last 5 minutes.
Because
Up to
even like
last
the
5
little
minutes.
kids that kick sand at her, they got killed. I mean, like they were little kids.
thing is,
They were
like-
like 8 or 9.
So they got their comeuppance, but like I said, like the people who are like really bitchy to her are the ones that got like the worst deaths.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
8-year-olds just got hacked by a hacker.
Yeah, and,
I
and,
mean,
and it was off screen.
oh,
so
the
it was just
curling
like,
iron. Ugh.
it was off screen, but then the worst people like Meg, she gets the knife in her back, just sliding down her spine.
Billy
Yeah.
with the Hornets taking a dump, reading in front of the
Right.
book. I mean, he's minding his own business, relieving himself, and reading Marvel comics. And the next thing you know,
He dies a horrible death from
Terrible
bees.
death.
No. I think the worst death is the one at the end.
Oh, with
Paul.
No, what
His
was
head
the
was
deal with Paul,
detached.
though? Like, why did she give him such a hard death? Like, he just wanted to love her.
Not really.
But then he did cheat on her with Judy.
Exactly. I think that's what sealed his fate. He could have made it home. But he decided
She chopped his head off.
Judy and her gorgeous A cups was too much for him to stay away from.
Yeah.
We've all pretty much like come to a solid consensus of this movie. Like, it was a good movie. You know what I mean? It was an interesting movie. I feel like it's way deeper than what we initially thought when we first saw it. But like, with that being said, like, what would you guys rate this movie?
5.
You rated a 5?
I rated a 5 because it's so clearly a classic horror flick. Like, I don't, you know, the assholes that say stuff like, oh, I love horror movies. I know every single thing about Freddy or
Right.
Suspiria, like the art house crowd. I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm a horror fan. If you can't freaking
Appreciate it.
if you can't appreciate this movie or quote at least one line from this movie, you're not a fan.
I wouldn't give it a 5 because I don't think anything is perfect. But I would definitely give it a solid 4. And because of the same reasons, like it's such a necessary film. You
It
know
is.
what I mean?
But with that's why I give it a 5.
I just have a hard time giving things because it had its faults. It had its faults, so it can't be a 5. But it was a good film, and I would watch it again and again and again.
What are you basing the faults on? The fact that it's not like an Oscar quality movie? Is that movie supposed to be an Oscar quality
It's
movie?
not supposed to be because it's like the director's first movie and it's low budget and shit. But it's a solid 4. You know, there's a lot of we watch low budget movies that don't deserve shit.
I don't
Yeah.
think it was. I mean, you can't tell it's a low budget movie. I mean, I just think it's a 1984 movie or a 1983 movie.
And that's where we differ. I can tell it's low budget.
It's low budget.
Well, you know, I mean, when you think about what time it was or when it was made,
But you can see a lot of it is rushed too, though.
Yeah.
Like if you actually like start looking, you're like, all right, this is a lot.
Well, yeah, because in the very beginning, you already have a killing within minutes. You know, when you get to camp.
Well, that's to set up the plot. What are you talking about?
Well, I know, but usually some movies drag it out, and you're like, God, is anyone gonna die? And
Yeah,
then,
but I
you know,
don't think that I don't think that equates to like it being a better budgeted movie or not. I feel like when I watched this movie, everybody's outfits came out of their closet.
yes.
There was no budget for.
You really think Ronnie had all those little shorts?
Ronnie
in his-
had those. He bought those specifically to wear for this movie.
No, I think he borrows those
He
from the
was
girls.
ready.
You know what? I'm gonna take one of Denise and Kayla's t-shirts and I'm gonna make a Gino shirt. I'm gonna cut it off right here.
Please.
Oh my
No.
Cut
God.
the fucking sleeves
You
off.
have a schoolboy cute stomach.
And you know, shut up.
Okay, let's not do that. So, Robin, what would you give this movie? I give it a 4. Jason gives it a 5.
I'm steady with a 5.
Especially for your first time.
I'm gonna say a 4 because like it was good, but then it was just like, you know, it didn't have much plot to it. You know, you didn't have like I mean it did have a plot, but I'm just saying like it didn't have much like story going on.
That's our review and our conversation on.
Of the classic
It is a classic.
horror film.
And if you haven't
Sleepaway
seen it, you definitely should see it if you're into like mysteries and thrillers. Hopefully we didn't spoil the plot because
Jay Nasty says you